A 21-year-old babysitter in the UK had sex with an 11-year-old boy, but she's not going to face any jail time as a result because the boy's father has defended her in court. Jade Hatt is the babysitter in question here, and this is a fascinating story about what we would consider rape here in the United States. Having read everything before me, the judge said, it was quite clear he was a mature 11-year-old and you are an immature 20-year-old, so that narrows the arithmetic age gap between you. That was the judge's mentality when he decided to suspend her jail sentence.
Can I just say, look, I think this is a very interesting story. We probably come out slightly different on it, but probably overall very much agree. But one thing that is clear is that the judge is wrong about arithmetic. It literally does not narrow the arithmetic age gap between them. It might reduce your view of it. It might affect your view of it, but it does not reduce the age gap between them. That is simple arithmetic. So on that note, we totally disagree.
This story is bananas. So here are some key things to keep in mind before we continue on with the major components of this story. First of all, the father who defended this 21-year-old who had sex with his 11-year-old son also had a sexual relationship with her at some time, okay? So just keep that in mind, all right? Now, according to the prosecutor in this case, in his words, the father's words, in his words, the victim's words in this case, she started bouncing on his private parts. Sexual intercourse took place. According to him, it was fairly brief, about 45 seconds. She told him she enjoyed it. He said he had not, as it was wrong, okay? Now, here's what the boy's father had to say. I know he told her he was 15. He looks older than his years. He is sex mad. The boy's father also said he would have been fully up for this experience and in many ways sees it as a notch on his belt and is totally unaffected by it. So the father's testimony had a huge impact on this woman not having to face any jail time whatsoever, even though she's a 21-year-old who had sex with an 11-year-old. The age of consent in the UK is 16, okay?
She just missed by 5 years. Yeah.
11!
Yeah,
okay? There are 11-year-olds in elementary school, okay? 5th grade.
Yeah. Okay, so now I don't get this because the dad says he was fully up for it, which in some respects is obviously true. Okay, but I think that is relevant. We'll get to that in a second. On the other hand, the dad's testimony clearly contradicts the son's testimony.
Yes.
Right? So why are we taking the dad's testimony into account at all? The kid says he didn't want to do it, and the dad says, oh, I don't know, he loved it, it's a notch in his belt. Yeah, your testimony is overridden by the fact that I have the kid in front of me, and he's saying he didn't want to do it.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
So that makes this case not that hard, right?
And also, okay, so let's just use the boy's father's reasoning and the judge's reasoning in this case for not giving her a jail sentence. The reasoning was, well, she's actually really immature, so that narrows the age gap, right? Mm-hmm. So what does that mean for the father who slept with this woman prior to her sleeping with the 11-year-old, right? So did that widen the gap between the father and the babysitter? Because it seems like it did. I mean, she's so immature, she doesn't know what she's doing.
But maybe that's a great point, Anna. I hadn't thought of that. Maybe the father should be held accountable for sleeping with her if she is, actually close to an 11-year-old in terms of mentality.
That's exactly right. Oh. Now, the judge did have some consequences for this woman, even though she's not going to serve any jail time. The judge sentenced Hatt to a 6-month jail term, suspended for 2 years with supervision, and told her she had to register as a sex offender for 7 years. He also issued an order banning her from having unsupervised contact with young boys for 2 years. Let's get this point off the table. If it was a 21-year-old man sleeping with an 11-year-old girl, I guarantee his maturity would not even be something brought up in the trial. But in this case...
Could you imagine if a judge said, I mean, look, I know the UK is different than the US. And here we're much harsher almost on everything. In the US we are. But no matter what, in any country, if the judge had said, well, the 20-year-old, and she was 20 at the time, she's 21 now, the 20-year-old man was immature anyway, and the 11-year-old girl was super mature. So, come on, was there really much of a difference? I mean, he'd be disbarred immediately, right? So let's keep it real. Look, my only slight difference here is an old bias that I have that in this case is almost not relevant at all. In the case of adults, when men say that they've been raped by a woman, but they participated in that act and they orgasmed in that act, then I'm a little confused, right? So now I'm a jerk for having that position. That's well established.
You know that women can also orgasm while they're getting raped because the emotional component of it is separate from the physical component of it. So a guy can get raped and orgasm as a result. Just keep that in mind.
So I hear you on that, and I'm sure that I'm in the minority. One day I will concede that, and we'll all move on. Okay, but in this case, there's almost no difference whatsoever in our positions because it's a minor, and it's not a little minor. It's not like I think the legal age should be 16, and it is 16 in Great Britain, right? This kid was 11, right? And so yeah, I mean, if you grab an 11-year-old kid, he might have a natural reaction, right, and etc. That doesn't make grabbing him is the right thing to do. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And the age difference, it's not like he was 11 and she was 13, right? The age difference is clearly significant, legally significant.
Yes.
Right? And the dad's opinion is completely irrelevant when you have the son. If he's speaking for the son and you don't have the son, well, I mean, maybe it's even then it wouldn't really matter, but maybe you can take into consideration this much in her sentencing. But now to get no prison time whatsoever, when the son says, I didn't want it to happen, she did it to me, and he's 11, it's a no-brainer. Of course she should get prison time. Any guy in her situation would get prison time and significant prison time. So this is not a close case. And so what the judge did is he seemed to be saying, like, it's one thing when I say it on air and we're, kidding about adults, right? Or, having conversations and at least hashing out the issues. It's another thing when you're in a legal context and you're the judge and it's about minors. And then you think, and it sounds like the judge thinks like, I would have liked to have done it when I was 11. So I'm going to let her go. You're not in that position. You can't say that. No, you got to apply the law. So what he did here was ridiculous.